going then. I just wanted to kick off again saying a huge thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join me this afternoon. Um, I thought it might be useful for me to just introduce myself. So I'm Pumalo. I'm one of the relationship managers here at Lightful. So we've been working very closely with Sported over the last couple of months, basically trying to understand some of the challenges that that organizations, particularly organizations that work in local communities, delivering sport projects and programs, um, face when it comes to using and adopting digital technology as a way of maybe communicating with their beneficiaries, their donors, supporters, and basically showcasing the impact of the work that they do. So as I mentioned, I'm one of the relationship managers here at Lightful. Bit of background about me. I worked in the charity sector for a number of years, most of that at Save the Children before I joined Lightful. I've also worked at the Home Office, so I had a brief stint in government. Um, and I'm passionate about sport. I'm passionate about helping others and and working in an environment that allows me to have some sort of social impact. So it's been great for me over the last couple of weeks, as I say, to work very closely with Sported because it kind of combines my two passions to the idea of the charity, not-profit sector, um, and combination of sport. So yeah, that's a bit about me, but anyway, I'll stop boring you with that and kind of dive into what we'll be talking about today. So what we'll cover today then, so we're here to talk about tools to make your work easier, particularly digital tools. And then what I'll try and do is focus on digital tools and technology that can help you when it comes to communicating. So a big part of what we do here at Lightful is we help charities, particularly smaller charities, better understand and better utilize digital and technology so that they can enhance the way that they communicate with their different audience groups. So that could be the people that you provide a service to, that could be the children that take part in your programs, that could be potential donors, supporters. So a vast range of audience groups. What we help these charities do is help them understand how digital and technology can play a huge part in helping them in that area. So today we're going to focus on drawing out some of those tools that you might want to consider using. But first of all, we'll touch on some learning objectives just so we're all clear on what we're hoping to get out of the session today, and we'll make sure to check back on those learning objectives at the end just to make sure we've got everything ticked off. I'll then go on to looking at tools that can help with project management. So a large part of what you do, I'm sure, is helping managing multiple things and multiple projects and multiple teams. So I'll talk to you a bit more about some tools that can help you with project management. And then look at some tools that can help with creative and design in terms of creating content for whether it's your social media, for your website. We'll look at that tools that can help really enhance the way that you showcase your work and showcase that impact. We'll then look at some email marketing tools. So email is a huge part of what we do at Lightful, and I'm sure it's a huge part of what you do. It's one of the main forms of communications that a lot of charities, a lot of nonprofits use. So we'll touch on some tools that can help with email marketing and making that whole area more efficient. We'll look at social media management tools. We'll look at client or customer relationship management tools. So we call these CRM systems. They can seem quite intimidating and complicated, but we'll hopefully try and give you some tools that are relatively simple to use that you might want to consider in terms of database management and housing everything, all your communications or all your contact lists in one place. Then we'll finish off with looking at some key takeaways. So as I said, we'll touch back on those objectives and make sure that we're taking away, those key messages from the session today. Hopefully have some time for questions at the end. But yeah, as I said earlier, please do stop me if you have any questions. Just fire them in the chat. I'll stop periodically just to check that you're still with me and that you're kind of taking in what I'm talking about. Cool. Okay, we'll get going. So we've got quite a lot to cover. So please, as I said, do stop me if I'm moving too fast or if anything is unclear. I'll try and make my way through all of this in the next sort of 40 minutes or so. Excellent. So first, let's look at these learning objectives then. Just again, so we're all on the same page and it's really clear what we're hoping to get out of the session. First thing, so learning objective 1, then hopefully by the end of today, we're going to understand the range of free digital tools available to you as nonprofits, as charities. You know, as I said, digital technology, these words can have quite a lot of meaning and they can sometimes be quite intimidating. So what hopefully we'll do today will help you understand you know, the range of tools that are available for free for charities that are really geared towards helping you become more efficient in the way that you work and in the way that you communicate. Secondly, we'll show you where you can actually find these tools. So I'll give you a list of potential tools covering those subjects that I mentioned in the agenda that I've just been through. I'll actually point you to where you might want to actually go and find and try these tools. And then last thing, we want you to understand how you actually utilize these tools for your organization. So the great thing about technology is that it's developing so quickly and there's so many options, and I'll show you that today. But what I want you to understand is that you have to choose the right tool for your organization. So you don't have to use everything that's out there. You don't have to spread yourself too thin. The key thing to remember is, and what you hopefully understand, is how you can best utilize the tools available for your organization. Perfect. Does that kind of cover what everybody would like to, does that make sense to everybody, first of all? If you could just, again, hit me with a yes in the chat or a no, if it doesn't make sense. Perfect. Thank you, Seva. Okay. Excellent. Thank you, sir. Okay. So first things first, then, tools to help with project management. So a big part of working for a charity, and I'm sure you can all testify to this, a big part for working for especially smaller charities and smaller organizations, in my experience anyway, often find that, you know, we all end up wearing loads of different hats and there's always so much going on, and everything lives in different places, different information lives in different places, and sometimes it can get quite difficult to manage projects and understand who's doing what, when it needs to be done by, and we'll all have 1,000 different spreadsheets. So hopefully these tools will help kind of alleviate some of those stresses that come with project management. First thing though, I want us to understand, you know, why is it important? Why should we be using project management tools? As I just mentioned, project management tools are so useful in helping us start to organize and prioritize workload. When we're wearing many different hats, when we're working with so many different people, external, internal, it's vital that we have an understanding of what needs to happen, when it needs to happen, and who's doing it. And then that additional bit of, you know, prioritizing, especially when it comes to crunch time, how can we be better at prioritizing what needs to get done first? So project management tools are very, very useful in that regard. The second thing that they're fantastic for is helping actually simplify and break down big projects. So, you know, that feeling at the start of a project, you've got your deadline, whether it's an event coming up that you have to get a certain number of signups for. You've got your deadline, you got it, and it can seem like this huge task lying ahead that's always bearing in the back of your mind. Project management tools are fantastic for helping break down those big, chunky looking projects into tiny, manageable tasks. Which are a bit more digestible. You can help, then you can get a better understanding of what needs to get done when. They're vital for planning and scheduling. Again, something I've already mentioned is this idea of being able to understand what needs to happen when in order to achieve your end goal. Project management tools help us schedule and plan in one place. And they're fantastic for collaborating. So currently we're living in this world where we're all in lockdown. I'm sure a lot of you are working from home or have had to work from home. And having something, we just don't have the ability to meet up in the same way as we did previously. Project management tools help us bring that collaborative spirit, help us keep our teams alive whilst we're all separated. So they're a great way of helping us have an understanding of who's working on what, share tasks, whilst still needing to live these sort of separate lives. So they're a great way of helping us collaborate and keep that team spirit that we don't have because we can't go to offices, help us keep that alive. And something that's fantastic as well, I mentioned objectives earlier. Sometimes we're not great at, we're very good at having an idea of what we need to get done and when, or having an idea of what the end goal is. Project management tools are really, really useful for helping us to get, like I mentioned earlier, break that down into a bit more of a digestible format. But then it's really good to also help us set milestones so that we know, right, this week I've done this, that's perfect. This week I need to have done this, I can do this and do this. So that idea of breaking it down into smaller chunks and setting milestones, and that's something that using a project management tool, a digital project management tool, can help us do. Tied into that as well is the idea of tracking progress. So a lot of the project management tools that I'll share with you today have really satisfying ways in which they help us track projects. Even if you think of the most basic way of how you do your task lists and how you tick things off or cross things off, I often find that quite satisfying. So a lot of the project management tools that I'll share with you have that aspect, except online, so we can really track our project and really celebrate when we've done and made progress against our larger projects or tasks. So now I'm going to talk to you about some tools to consider. So we've looked at the benefits, we've looked at why we think it's important to use project management tools. Now let's dive into some specific tools that you should consider using. But before I share mine, it would just be interesting to hear in the chat box, are there any tools that you use or that you've started using since we've sort of gone into this remote working world, and how do you find them? If you could just pop into the chat, let me know if there are any tools that you use. No, you don't use anything, Sarah? That's absolutely fine. Hopefully by the end of today, you'll have a tool that you might be able to adopt and introduce to the rest of your team. Excellent. So the first one is a tool called Trello. So Trello is essentially a project management tool that allows you to schedule, allows you to write down your tasks, allows you to assign tasks to different teammates, and allows you to track your progress against those tasks. So it works in the same way as almost a whiteboard, essentially, where you can set your larger goal, and then break that down into smaller digestible chunks. So again, this idea of having the end objective in our minds, but then being able to actually write down the tasks that we need to complete to get to that end objective. And Trello allows you to do that. Another benefit of Trello is that it is actually free. to use, or it has a free version for nonprofits. So what I'll do when I share the link, when I share the slides and the recording to this, I will send you a link to Trello and all the tools that I mentioned actually here. I'll send you a link to them so you can go and check them out, as well as a little video tutorial on those individual tools. I'd love to take you through every one and show you exactly what it looks like. But I thought I'd just spend this time introducing you to the tool, telling you some of the benefits, and then you can research it in your own time. So the first one is Trello. Have a look at that. The second one works in the same way as Trello. The only thing that Asana has that Trello doesn't have is this idea of almost live collaboration. So with Asana, multiple team members can log in to one company account. So you can all collaborate, you can all work on projects at the same time and see who's doing what. It has like a drag and drop feature, which is really, really good. So you have your separate to-do lists, and you can see live simply by jumping on a Zoom call. You can sit there live and have your team to-do list, and you can drag and drop different tasks into the either done, in progress, or it needs to be not started column. Dropbox is a slightly different tool when it comes to project management, because it's a task management tool. Dropbox is basically a file sharing system, a cloud-based file sharing system that allows multiple people from different locations to access files. So it's this idea of, making sure everybody in the team has access to the same information. So you can create for free, again, you can create a company Dropbox account, and then make sure that everybody in your team has access to that account through passwords and their email addresses, and then save information, whether that's pictures, whether that's case studies, or there's information about different events. You can save that all in your organization's Dropbox account so that everybody has access to the same information, and you don't have to worry about having access to somebody else's laptop or computer in order to get access to that vital information. Monday, again, is very similar to Trello and Asana in that it's an online to-do list that multiple team members can log in, can track their tasks, can set deadlines. Team managers can actually have more access than say team admins. That allows them to actually assign different tasks to people and send people reminders and things like that when tasks need to be done. It integrates with your emails as well. So you, again, the idea of making sure that everybody gets reminders when tasks need to be done. So check out Monday as well. And then the last one is the Google Drive, which is very similar to Dropbox. It's this idea again of having information stored in one place so that we don't have to access information on different sources. So that, again, this idea now that we're all working from separate locations, how can we all have access to the same information? The Google Drive helps solve that problem. Excellent. So now we're going to look at creative and design tools. So these are tools that will help in terms of enhancing the imagery that you put out as an organization, the copy that you put out, the videos that you put out as an organization. These tools will help with that. So why should we think about using creative tools then? As I just mentioned, it's that idea of enhancing the content that you put out. So they really, really help bring your storytelling to life. As nonprofits, we strongly believe that nonprofits and charities have fantastic stories to tell. It just sometimes happens that we're not great at, through no fault of our own, but because we don't have access to the same tools and that certain commercial organizations have, we're not able to get to tell as or to showcase our work and the impact of our work to the same level. But they're definitely free design tools that can help close that gap. So it's this idea of enhancing your storytelling that will then help capture the attention of your audiences, whether that's, you know, that's donors, that's the people that actually use your services. It'll help engage those people and keep them engaged. So the better imagery, the better videos that you're putting out, whether that's on Facebook, whether that's on your website, the better quality and the more creative they are, the better chance you have of capturing attention and engaging your audience. The other thing that creative tools can help is deepen that brand awareness and that brand consistency. So if you have everybody in the team using the same, you know, type of image, whether that's, you know, like a portrait image, whether it's the same types of colors whenever they're talking about your organization and the work that you do, it helps trigger something in your audience's mind so that when they see that those types of images, when they see those colors, they can relate it back to your brand. So it's this idea of enhancing your imagery and deepening the brand awareness and deepening that connection with that your audience has with your brand. So then some tools to consider then that will help you achieve some of those things that I've just gone over in the last slide. Canva is a great tool. It's a really simple to use. It gives you access to loads and loads of templates for creating leaflets, for creating PowerPoint slides, for creating social media images. It gives you loads and loads of templates that you can use. You can play around with the colors, with the fonts and things like that, so that you can start developing your own brand and this idea of having consistency. So one of the things that we always notice at Lightfolk that some nonprofits do that don't necessarily spend a lot of time on their imagery and the content that they put out is that sometimes it can be really inconsistent. But tools like Canva help start to get that consistency. So if everybody knows that, you know, these as an organization, these are our primary colors, these are the types of images that we put out, and here are some templates that we use when we're talking on social media or we're sending emails out. It helps again build that consistency in the mind of your audience so that when they see those types of colors, they can say, oh, that's from so and so and that's from so and so. Canva is an excellent tool for that. So it's I have no design experience whatsoever, but I use Canva quite a lot because of how easy it is to use, how easy it is to navigate, and especially the templates that it provides. Giphy is something that you might or might not have already heard of, but Giphy is a tool that basically allows you to access millions and millions of GIFs. And I hope just in case anybody doesn't know what a GIF is essentially a moving image. So they're fantastic for particularly social media. Statistics show that audiences, especially now, if you think about what a social media feed looks like, so a Twitter page or a Facebook page, there's so much content constantly on there. Audiences react better to moving images, so it helps capture their attention, and GIFs help do that because it's this idea of having a moving image. So Giphy gives you access to loads and loads of those moving images. They're often quite funny. We use them quite a lot in at Lightful. You simply go onto the Giphy website, type in what you the type of GIF that you're searching for, the type of image that you want to display, and it will give you thousands and thousands of options that you can then display either on your emails or your social media accounts. Pablo, again, is another creative tool that helps you build templates for your social media posting. So again, it's this idea of not just, when we're posting pictures, how can we enhance those images? Do we want to overlay some some messaging on it? So if you think about, if you're sending out a tweet, you've only got a finite amount of, you've only got 280 characters that you can actually type out in a tweet. So how can we enhance the image to tell a deeper story? Pablo is a great way of doing that. It helps you build infographics. You can, as I mentioned, overlay text on your images so that you're still able to maximize your storytelling and the story that that image is trying to tell. Adobe Spark is very similar to Canva, so it's really useful for creating infographics. It's really useful for editing your images, whether you want to, crop something, whether you want to enhance something, whether you want to change color or hue, saturation. There's different techniques. It's really, really simple to use, and it allows you to again bring your images to life. And that's, sorry, jumping ahead, and that's all we've got in terms of creative tools. And again, we can, if that's something that you're particularly interested in, because I know a lot of people want ways of enhancing their imagery and their brand. I'd love to hear more about what some of your specific challenges are when it comes to these different areas. So please do get in touch. And again, I'll make sure to send you links and more detailed instructions on these different tools. Just going to jump ahead then to look at email tools. And when we talk about email tools, I'm talking specifically about email marketing. And marketing can be a bit of a funny word, but I don't mean marketing as in trying to gain sales or gain donations. I mean marketing in terms of, communicating with our wider audiences. So again, that could be donors, it could be supporters, it could be people that use your services. So why should we start using email marketing tools then? It's this idea of, developing a pool of engaged audience members. So again, it could be donors, it could be supporters, it could be service users. Marketing tools help us continually engage and grow our list. So we've heard, if you've ever heard of the phrase of putting an email list together, so think about those people that might receive a newsletter from your organization. Email marketing tools are a great way of continually keeping communications up with those lists of people. They help us expand our reach. So email is a really personal thing. So when somebody makes a move to add you, to provide their email address to you as an organization, that's a really valuable asset to have. So it's a great way of expanding your reach. It's a great way of keeping people informed with what your organization does. That in turn then drives more donations, or it could drive more subscribers. And again, email is a great way of showing, allowing you to showcase your impact as an organization. So it's going directly to the people that have given you their email address. You're able to, sometimes in a lot more detail than you could do in a tweet or Facebook post, you can go into tell a bit more of a story about how much of an impact your organization is having and how much the people that you're communicating are helping with that. Again, it's this idea of being really personal on emails. Email tools help personalize the way you actually speak to your audiences. So if you've got an email list, if you've got a list of names attached to those emails, it's a great way to make it a bit more personal. So again, comparing it to social media, sometimes social media can be a bit faceless, whereas emails are personal because you're talking directly to that person. Another benefit of email is the fact that it's often free to use, and a lot of email marketing tools, and some of the ones that I'll take you through today, are free for nonprofits, or at least very cheap. So it's a cost-effective way of reaching a larger group of people. So which email tools should you consider? First one is Benchmark Email, which allows you to do all those things I've just talked about. So it allows you to personalize your emails. It allows you to create a list of contacts, group them by their first name, by their interests. It allows you to email multiple people at once. So it's this idea of being really, really efficient when you're communicating with larger groups of people. So if you think you've got an event coming up, you want to send invitations or you want to send information about that event to multiple people, Benchmark Email allows you to do that, and you can tailor it. You could, if you want to, you can make it a little bit more personalized, but it's this idea of reaching a large group of people just by contacting them through one place. MailChimp is another one that allows you to plan, schedule your emails. So if you know that you're going to be off one day, but you need to send an email, something about this event needs to go out, you can plan ahead, you can schedule. Again, you can personalize, you can start to segment your different audience groups or your different email recipients, again, based on the information that you know about them. So if you know, for example, that a group of people on your email list are only interested in this type of event, you can segment them and contact them only about this event. This people are only interested in this type of event, you can segment them and contact them only about that event. So it's the idea of starting to be a bit more personal. So we're not just bombarding everybody, but contacting people with what they're interested in. It allows you, Campaign Monitor is a really good one because it's this idea of building consistent campaigns. So something that we encourage a lot of the organizations that we work with and that a lot of our organizations have success with is this idea of being a bit more strategic with how they use email. So it's not just, sending an email when we want something or when we feel like we need to tell our audience about something. How can you be a bit more strategic? How can you keep them engaged over longer periods of time? So this idea of creating email campaigns is something that Campaign Monitor really, really helps with. Active Campaigns, similarly to Campaign Monitor, helps with building email campaigns. So if you've got an end goal, so you want to get a number of signups, Campaign Monitor gives you an Active Campaign. Actually, they both give you like templates that you can just fill with the content, with the text that you need to talk to your audience about. But it's these pre-built-in templates that end up with you trying to achieve this end goal, whether it's signups or donations for a specific event. Kind of gives you the templates that allow you to work backwards and say, right, this is how many times you're going to contact this group of people. This is how many times, this is what we're going to talk to them about, and this is when we're going to ask them to get involved. And then lastly, GMass. So GMass again is really, really good for scheduling, for reaching multiple people at once as well. And it just, GMass connects directly into your, it's like a little add-on that you can get to your Gmail account. So if you use Gmail, you can actually connect GMass for free. I've just got a question in chat. It's an excellent question, Haley. So Campaign Monitor allows you to, in fact, all of these email tools allows you to group your audiences together. So depending on a set criteria. So when you collect your email address, when you collect email addresses, these email tools allow you to actually allocate themes or labels to the different email addresses. So you might want to start collating, if you know that you've got, say, a spring dance coming up, you might want to say, right, these are the people that I want to speak to about that spring dance. So you would label them spring dance, so that when it came to building a campaign specifically for that group of people, you could select them and it would give you the templates to contact those people specifically about that spring dance. Does that kind of answer your question? So it's this idea of creating consistent campaigns and targeting people for the information that's specific to them. But you would have to do a bit of work to understand, you know, what those people are interested in the first place, and then do some work on Campaign Monitor to actually label them that way. Brilliant. Excellent. So very quickly then, just going to go through some social media management tools. Out of interest, do any of you use social media management tools? I'll come back to your question in a second, Hayley. I think that's something we'll touch on. And no problem if nobody uses a social media management tool. Are you all, can I just check, are you all active in social media in terms of your organizations? Do they have a Facebook page, Twitter page, LinkedIn, Instagram, all of the above? Just Twitter and Insta. Yeah, that's good. Something to really understand and take home with social media is it's really important to understand, you know, who your audience is and what platforms they're active on. So I've mentioned, you know, 4 or 5 social media platforms just then, and because they're available for us and they're all free to sign up for and use, doesn't mean we have to use them. It's really important to know which platforms your audience is using and then be active on those platforms so that you're communicating to them where they are. We don't want to spread ourselves too thin and just create different social media accounts just for the sake of having them because we think they're popular. Understand where your audience is, and then go to that platform and communicate with them there. Cool. That's really interesting, Ellie. You're new to Instagram. Instagram is an interesting one because it's often associated with younger audiences, but more and more people are adopting Instagram. And I can talk to you. I'll come back to that as well. And your previous question, I'll come back to a bit more about how you can potentially start to understand where your audiences are. And you're right, they do attract slightly different audiences, so that's why it's really important to know, you know, which ones people are using or the types of people you want to communicate with are on, so then you can focus your attention on that. But first of all, you know, why should we think about using social media management tools? Again, it's this idea of efficiency and saving time. So social media management tools are basically tools that allow you to schedule your social media content, to plan ahead and post from one place. So it saves you having to log into your Twitter, log into your Facebook, log into your Instagram and create posts for these different platforms. It allows you to connect those platforms to one place and then just create posts from that one place. It's a one-stop shop for planning your social media campaigns and your social media posts. So I know a lot of the organizations we work with, and I'm sure a lot of you are so pressed for time. So the last thing you want to spend loads of time do is scheduling on multiple different platforms. So social media management platforms help with that. Again, this idea of helping you plan ahead. We've already talked about scheduling in terms of emails and scheduling in terms of, you know, that idea of project management. Social media platforms are big, management tools are a big part of that because they help you plan well in advance. This idea of scheduling well in advance, instead of being reactive, it allows us to be a bit more proactive with the messages that we're putting out there. they're really good because they help you understand your impact. And this might answer your question, Haley, actually. But they're fantastic because a lot of the social media platforms have built-in analytics that help you get an idea of, what your audiences are reacting to. So you'll get an idea of, which types of posts are really famous by measuring, or particularly popular by measuring the types of likes, the number of likes, the number of shares they get, number of reposts they get. So you start to, with the analytics available in social media management platforms, you start to get an idea of what people are engaging with, therefore what you might want to do more of. And because you're connecting multiple tools into one place, it allows you to then get an idea of which of those platforms are popular with your audience. So then you start to build this image of actually, maybe we shouldn't be on Instagram because we're not getting much engagement, or maybe we do need to replicate what we're doing on Facebook on Instagram to help boost that audience. Again, it helps you develop consistency. So if you're doing everything from one place, and you don't have 10 different people doing it from those signing into all those different platforms and doing it individually, you start to develop this consistency. And consistency is so important when it comes to keeping people engaged, engaging new audience members, and growing awareness of your organization and your organization's brand. And again, that idea of increasing your audience. So the more efficient you are, and the more consistent you are, the more creative you can be through these social media management tools, the more chance you have of increasing your audience. Cool. So now let's look at some tools to consider. So we at Lightful have our very own social media management platform. It's quite unique in the fact that it was built and developed specifically for charities and nonprofits. So all those things that I just touched on, the idea of saving you time, helping you plan and schedule ahead, helping you tell your stories, and that's something that's very unique to our platform. But the Lightful Social Platform is the first of its kind in that it's a purpose-built social media management tool for charities and for nonprofits. So on there, you can plan your content, you can schedule, you can review how your posts are doing with our detailed analytics. We've got a place there, a feature called the Story Builder, which basically gives you templates for creating social media campaigns. So again, similar to what I just talked about with the email marketing tools, this idea of making it as easy as possible for you to build consistent email social media campaigns over time. So whether it's an event you're coming up, you're planning for a fundraising social you're planning for, the Lightful Social Platform has these different templates that you can then just edit and add imagery to, and then schedule your posts. So do check that out. Buffer, again, similarly allows you to connect with multiple social media platforms, and allows you to schedule in advance. It's got great tools, great tips for that help you along the way with creating your social media posts. Again, also analytics as well, which help you understand the impact of what you're putting out there on social media. Similarly, Sprout Social works in a very similar way to Buffer. The idea of scheduling, planning, understanding your audience. Hootsuite, again, works in the same way. And then, oops. Oh, I thought I had one more. But I just wanted to come back, whilst we were on the subject of social media, I wanted to come back to your question, Haley, in terms of audience on Instagram. So a very useful thing to do when trying to understand whether you should or shouldn't be on a platform is look at similar organizations. Look at similar organizations that either work in the same focus area as you, or have if you've got a rough idea of whether they target the same group of people as you. Have a look at their spread across social media. have a look at, which platforms they're active on. That will start to give you an idea of, whether, because presumably they'll be trying to target or speak to a similar audience, and it will give you a quick idea of whether you should be active on that audience. Also, if the rough demographics of your target audience, it's more than likely that, if they're slightly younger, if it's like slightly younger people that you're trying to serve, Generation Z, Gen X, Gen Y, if you're trying to contact these people, it's likely that they'll be active with social media. Do your audience love imagery? Do they like quite detailed posts? Are they into news and things like that? That'll start to give you an idea of which platforms you should be on. Also, polls are really, really useful, so don't be afraid to actually ask. So if you've got quite an active following on Facebook, don't be afraid to send them a quick poll or a survey to ask them what they think about your Instagram page, what you could do more of on Instagram. Use the current touch points that you have with your audiences to get more insight and feedback on what they think you should be doing, and that will give you a good idea of which platforms to push forward. Excellent. So last thing I wanted to touch on then before we kind of look at the key next steps and then dive into some questions is customer relationship management tools or systems. We just call these CRM systems. Does anybody here use some sort of database or CRM system? That's an interesting point, and that's hopefully I'll show you a couple here, Sarah, that are a bit more cost effective. But the trouble with CRM systems is that they can be very, very expensive. And Haley, again, sorry, just to touch on your question about sort of frequency and getting content right on social media. It's a very tricky one because it's specific to different platforms. But what I would always say is focus on quality rather than quantity. So it's this idea of consistency. So if you can give yourself almost a timeline, say whether that's 2 weeks to a month, where you'll focus on maybe just a couple of posts a week, 3-4 posts a week, but trying to get as much quality and as much information into those posts as possible. So making sure that you get your imagery right. Are you using videos? Are you being interactive? Are you asking questions of your audience? Try and think back to when you got engagement on your social media posts and try and replicate that. So was there something in common, if you can look back at your history and say, like, these types of posts have got loads of likes, what is it that we're doing in these posts that we can replicate? Those are very quick ways that you can try and start boosting your engagement. But basically, try and focus on doing less, but more with that less. So try and squeeze in as much information, as much creativity into those posts, make them engaging. So ask questions are a fantastic way of doing that. Imagery. At the minute, you're hosting 29 free classes, hence posting. Okay, yeah. And that's the thing. So the thing is, and which platform is that on, Haley? Insta and Facebook. That's really interesting because the way Facebook and Instagram, the way their algorithms work, which is basically what they use to manage the feeds, the way their algorithms work is that they start to penalize you for for almost posting loads and loads. And I would say 5 to 6 times a day isn't loads, but what they start to look at is what engagement those posts are getting. So you end up getting pushed down the algorithm, pushed down the feed if you're not getting much engagement. So think about how you can use the first couple of posts that you're doing in the day to tell people about your other posts. So is it that you use the first post in the day to present your schedule, you tell people to look out for your other posts, look out for more information. So think about how you can use those first ones to maximize. Those first ones are more than likely getting more engagement, are going to get more engagement. Think about the timings of those posts. Excellent. And sorry, again, just really pushed for time. I always do this and end up having to rush through the last few slides. I'll just fly through CRM. So as you've quite rightly said, Sarah, they can be really expensive, but they can be quite cost effective. So look at it. What I would always say with CRM, and this is something that you'll have to do potentially internally to convince the people that hold the keys to the money. But they're vital and they can bring a lot in terms of the return on investment that you actually put in. But basically they allow us to house all of our information in one place. It's this idea of being really, really efficient. Forget about spreadsheets, forget about keeping things in different places. It's all about managing relationships from one place, and CRMs allow us to do that. And it's this idea again of being really, really consistent with how we communicate, whether that's with donors, internal staff members, people that are involved in our programs, and beneficiaries as well. They're fantastic for helping us get a better understanding of who our audience makeup is. So again, if everything is housed in one place, if you've got all that information, a lot of CRMs actually have built-in analytical tools that give you information about your audience. It's this idea of getting deeper understandings, meaningful understanding of your different audience groups. A lot of CRM systems actually plug into some of those email management systems I mentioned earlier. So it's this idea again of managing your communications from one place. A huge part of a CRM system and a huge benefit is this idea of keeping data safe. I'm sure you've all been bombarded with over the last few years with all the data security sessions and GDPR sessions that you've had to go on. But CRMs are vital in helping keep data secure and safe. And again, it's this idea of being able to segment your audience by interests. CRM systems allow you to label and group your different contacts. So whether you want to group, people that your beneficiaries or your service users, group your donors, group the different types of donors, group them by age. CRM systems, if you have that information, if you have that data to put into them, they help you do that. And then it helps you tailor how you speak to those different audience groups. And then just very quickly go through some CRM systems. So Salesforce for nonprofits is quite expensive. I think it's about £120 a month, but it really is all singing, all dancing. So it allows you to do all those different things that I've mentioned, plus more. So have a look at Salesforce for nonprofit. HubSpot is quite good, a little bit cheaper than Salesforce, but again, it's this idea of keeping everything in one housing unit. eTapestry is a little bit on the cheaper side, but it's relatively basic in the information that it allows you to put in, but it allows you to hold email addresses, contact details, names, numbers, all that information. Allows you again to start grouping that information based on interests. Donify is more of a fundraising customer relationship management system. So it helps you build, again, this idea of building campaigns with a view to asking for donations. And Thank You, again, is specific, is very charity orientated in that, again, it allows you to communicate, build campaigns, build communication campaigns, donation campaigns, fundraising campaigns from one place. And then very quickly, I'll just fly through the key takeaways. I'm so sorry that we've run over time. So the first thing is something that I mentioned earlier. So be really clear and think about how the tool that you're going to choose will actually help you achieve your organizational goal. So there's so many, I've gone through so many different digital tools today, but be really, really clear in whether it's vital in helping you achieve your goal, and try and quantify that in a way. So if you, like you mentioned, Sarah, you know, CRM systems can be very expensive, but if you can quantify and say, look, we've done some research into the CRM system, and here's how much it costs, but here's, you know, even looking at the, here's the time that it will save, here's how it will help us keep data secure. That is a great way in helping, you know, convince board members or senior staff members, whoever it is that's going to be responsible for making those decisions and whether you invest in that. Think about how long it takes to actually embed in your organization and to implement. So again, CRM as an example, or even email marketing system as an example. Think about how long it will actually take, you know, from training, from do you need to then get external help to come and train your internal staff members on that? Do you need to, will it take a day? Will it take months to input all that data from different places? Think about that. That will play a huge factor in what you choose to use. And then think as well, are there costs to some of the additional features? So a lot of what I've gone over, free or low cost, but sometimes that's just for entry level. So, you know, the more you use it, will, can you try and plan ahead and think, right, this is where we are now, but when we grow our audience, or when we have to add more people to our email list, what's going to be the cost implications of that? And then think about the practicalities of it. Is it actually going to make a difference to your team on a daily basis? How and how will it do that? That's really, really important to consider. I'm so sorry, we've run out of time for questions. Unless you had any specific questions that I could very quickly answer now, I will make sure to share the recording, the slides with you, and some links to all the different tools that I have talked about today. But yeah, just a huge thank you for taking the time to join me today. I'm also going to be running another session specifically on social media next Tuesday at 4 p.m. I will make sure you all get an invitation to that. But yeah, please do join me then. But in the meantime, I'll make sure to share these slides with you. And again, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to enjoy me, to join me. I hope it's been useful for you. Okay.